Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is Everything AbbyPearl. I'm welcoming the new viewers as well. If you are new, I talk about fashion, I talk about tech, and also I talk about family. So if any of this sound interesting to you, please join the growing community, subscribe, and also give this video and other videos that you like a thumbs up, okay? So today's video is sewing tutorial, and I'm going to be showing you how you can cut your pencil trouser with pattern method. All right, so this method is not something that is really common where I came from. I know a lot of people really want to know how to cut their clothes with patterns, and please make sure you share this video because I want it to reach more people so they can also benefit from this video. And I don't want you to only benefit, but other people can benefit as well. All right, so this information and this tutorial that I'm sharing with you, I paid a lot to learn it. I'm giving you for free. I'm not getting anything from you. The only thing I need is your encouragement. Let me know how it's helping you in the comment section, because that will encourage me to do more and put more videos up for you. Also, it will encourage me if you kindly share this video as well. Give it a thumbs up to let me know that you are loving it. Okay, you don't have to pay, it's for free. So please share it and also give it a thumbs up. All right, so I'm not going to take much of our time. We'll show you in a moment how you can draft your pencil trouser with pattern method. All right, and for this sewing tutorial today, I'm sewing with a band. If you want to know more about how to cut a band with a pattern, I can put that up for you. Please let me know in the comment section. I'll try as much as possible to put the video up for you, because making a sewing tutorial video, it's not that easy, and also like it takes hour or more than an hour, but we have to compress it, you know, just to make it short for you to enjoy. And I hope that you find this very helpful. If you are a beginner, you're welcome. This video is very good. And if you are not a beginner but you don't know how to cut with pattern, this is also good for you. So let's start right now. I have gone ahead to draw the horizontal line and also the vertical line. So my measurement is going to be on the horizontal line, and my waistline is the starting point. I'm just going to indicate that on the waistline so that you can know what I'm talking about. I hope that is clear enough. And the other two horizontal lines that are showing below the waistline, please ignore that. That is the table line because it's a foldable table, so just ignore that. Please note that all your measurements are going to start from the waistline. So for this project, I'm using 8 inches because of the person I'm sewing for. For taller people, you can use 9. So it's usually between 8 and 9 inches. That is the distance between the waistline and the hip. And now we're going to join the horizontal line and make it a straight line. The reason I have it marked with the same 8 inches measurement is because I don't want any slant measurement, so I want it very straight and accurate. Then just for clarity, you can just indicate on the horizontal line that that is your hip line. So the next measurement will be the crotch line. That is what I already marked on the paper. So to get your crotch measurement, you have to sit on a hard surface. This is what I displayed on the screen. So after sitting on a hard surface, measure your waistline from waistline to the surface of where you're seated. That is your crotch depth. So there's basic principle to that, which is very simple. That is how to measure it. And for this project, I'm using 10, but whatever you get is your crotch depth. So you put it on the crotch line. Our next measurement will be the thigh line. So measure from the waist, and also usually it's between 3 inches. So I already measured 3 inches from the crotch line downwards, which is what I have as my thigh line, and I connected it with the horizontal line. So just indicate it for clarity. And the next one, which is what I am already doing after that, is the knee length. So whatever you have measured from the waist to the knee, that is your knee length. For me, I'm using 22 inches as the knee length. Next measurement is to measure your trouser length, which is going to be from the waistline to your ankle line. So you can see that my measurement is accurate from the waist to the hip, to the crotch line, the thigh line, the knee line, and also the ankle line. My ankle line measurement is 39 inches. So whatever you have, mark that on the pattern paper, then connect your horizontal lines with a straight line. So on a side note, if you're curious to know about my pattern paper, I bought it on Amazon. It is a sewable pattern paper, very good, and it's also transparent. It's like tissue. So in case you want that, I hope it's helpful. I'm going to link that in the description below. All right, so next we have to move to the horizontal measurements. So for this horizontal measurement, we're going to start our measurement on the hip line. All right, so the hip measurement divided by 4, that is what we're going to mark on the hip line. For this project, the hip measurement is 40 inches. So we're going to add 0.5 inches or half an inch to that particular measurement that you get for your hip measurement. That is the ease allowance. You have to add that to your trouser measurement because you don't want everything to be too tight if you are not using a stretchy material. In case you notice that I changed the position of my tape measure, I did that so that you can see clearly from your angle what I'm measuring and what I'm marking on this paper. Next, as you can see, is to transfer the same measurement on the crotch line and also on the waistline. Then you connect everything together with a straight line. Next is to get our waist measurement. So we have to start from the new vertical line that we just got, and we will measure the waist. My waist measurement that I'm using is 32.5, so which is like 8.1. Then I added ease allowance and also 1 inch allowance, which is going to be my dots that I'm going to take away from the waist. So then you mark that on the waistline. I'm transferring the waistline indicator to the other side so you can see clearly what I'm marking on the paper. So unfortunately, the marker that I'm using is a erasable marker, but it's not erasable on the paper. It's only erasable on the whiteboard. So you have to connect the new line that you got, your waistline, to the hip line. So I'm using this tool to connect it just for accuracy. In case you want something like this, I'm going to put it in the description box below so that you can get it as well. I got it from Amazon. After getting the curve for the waist, we have to get the crotch points, and that is the distance between the old, that is the initial vertical line, and the new vertical line that is sitting on the crotch line. So whatever you get divided by 4, then you place it on the new vertical line, and also you will mark it on the paper. So what I'm marking is what I got, then you measure yours and you mark it on the paper. So once you do that, then you have to join it with a curve to the new vertical line. So you can measure it, mine maybe 2 inches, just not too deep. So I'm using like 2 inches. You can use 2 or 1.5 inches, but here it's so funny that my marker was fading away, so I had to change the color to blue. It's looking hard, but please manage it. Thank you. So next is to find the midpoint between the crotch points and the starting point of the crotch line. Whatever we have at the middle point is going to be our center line. If you are a beginner, you don't have to use calculator all the time for your measurement division. So what you need to do is just do your measurement and fold your measuring tape into 2, and you will get whatever you want to get. And if you have to divide by 4, for instance, like initially when we divided the waist measurement by 4, you just fold your measurement on the measuring tape into 4, then you get your accurate result. So back to what we are doing. So what I got on that, which is now my center line, I measured it the same thing on the waistline, on the thigh line, the knee line, and also the ankle line. So I have to connect everything with a straight line. Next thing is to achieve the pencil shape for our trouser. So we will transfer what we have for our tie measurements on the paper. So for this one, we are not starting the measurements on the starting point of the vertical line. So the new vertical line, which is the midpoint, that is the center line. So whatever you have tie measurement, that is what you will divide by 2. So for instance, my tie measurement is 24, so I divided it by 2, which is 12. You have to get the mid measurements of what you have. Mine is 6 of 12, so you have to place it on the center line of the trouser. So once you do that, then you mark it to the right and the left, which is going to be your new tie line measurement. So you do the same thing for the ankle line and also for the knee line. Knee line is 17.5 divided by 2, which is 8.7. Then I placed it on the center line, which gives me 4.2 thereabouts. So the same thing, you will have to divide your ankle line divided by 2. Then whatever you have as the middle of your ankle line, then you will place it on the ankle line starting from the center line. So you connect the points together, so which is going to form your pencil trouser pattern. So now I'm going to show you how to do that, and just for accuracy you can use something like this as well. And if you are really good at using hand sketching, you can as well use freehand sketching to get that, but this is what I used and this is what I always use. I like it a lot. After, you should have something like this, and for this that I'm doing is to get the hemming allowance. So I'm using 2 inches. You can use 1.5 as you like. So from this one, I'm going to connect it with a horizontal line. Then for me to join the vertical line, I'm not going to join it straight away like that. I will fold the pattern paper, and this is one of the advantages of this pattern paper, which I love because it's transparent and I can easily transfer what I have the vertical line to that, because the reason I'm doing this is to not fall short of fabric when I'm sewing it, okay? Because if you don't do this, you might fall short of fabric, and once you cut already and you don't have excess fabric, there's no way you will be able to join that. So once you connect it, and this is how it looks at the bottom. Next is to get our dart. So I'm measuring 4 inches from the waistline on the center line. So then you measure half an inch on both sides, that is to the right and the left. Then you connect it together with a straight line. So you should have something like this after you have drafted your front pattern. Then we will use this to draft our back pattern before we had the seam allowance and also the pockets. So I'm just going to transfer what I have already for the front pattern of the trouser to this back pattern. So I'm not changing anything. So once I'm done with this transferring of the front pattern to the back pattern, at least that is what we will build on for the back pattern. It's not difficult, it's very easy, but I'll try as much as possible to make it very explanatory. So while I'm working on transferring the front pattern to make the back pattern, just so you know, I don't have the trouser measurements on the channel yet, but by God's grace next week you can check back. I will upload that to the channel, and also I'll link that to this video so you can check in case you need to see that. I'm sure you noticed that I have taken away the pattern that we duplicated to form our back pattern away. So now this is the front pattern, which is the initial pattern that we did. So what we are going to do is to add the seam allowance. After adding the seam allowance of half an inch, that is 0.5 inch, so you're going to see that in a moment, and I'll go ahead to make the pocket. So I was thinking of dividing this video into 2 and make the pocket in the next video, but I think I'm just going to leave it on this video then, so that people can understand this better. And if you want to know how to do like a pattern drafting of a band, the band of a trouser or a skirt. I'm going to upload that soon as well. It was a request, so just make sure that you subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet, and also make sure that you keep checking back. I would really love to see you coming back, and also to leave a comment if you have any question. I would love to answer your questions. So yeah, I'm sure you noticed that I already drafted the pocket pattern. I'm sorry I lost the video. That is one of the challenges of filming, but I will explain again what I did and how I got this. I measured 2 inches from the inner line of the waistline, and remember that the outer line is the seam allowance. So then I curved it out with the curve ruler. So from there, from the waistline, the inner line, not the outer line, which is the seam allowance, from the inner line I measured 6 inches downwards. All right, so this is going to be our pocket opening. We're still going to draft the pocket, but just imagine that this is already the trouser. So this is our pocket opening that we are drafting. So after that, I did the seam allowance for the pocket opening. So this is when I curved it out with a curved ruler. So you know you have to sew the pocket opening as well, so it must have the seam allowance. So I added seam allowance of 1/2 inch. So that is what I did over there, and that's how I got the pocket opening for this particular trouser. So I also went ahead in the video that I lost to do a zipper fly, but I'm not going to go into details about that because this video is already getting long, so I don't want it to be too long. So I'm just going to cut the zipper fly away from this particular pattern. So now we will proceed to making of the pocket. Pocket is not another job, it's just to duplicate what we have on this particular pattern, but not everything, just from the dart area to the crotch line as I'm doing right now. So you can as well measure, if you're sewing for yourself, measure with your hand, you know, just the length at which you want your hand to go into the pocket, how deep you want your pocket to be. And if you're sewing for a client, you can as well use you can as well use your hand as an example. You know, just make sure that it's not too short, make it deep but not too deep. So I placed the panel aside and trying to cut out the pocket for this particular trouser. Then you cut out the opening of the pocket. So this particular part, we don't need it any longer, so we put it aside. Now that we have a new pocket, so we are going to replace it with that. Then we need to cut the pocket facing. All right, so what we're going to do is we will have to place a new paper on this particular pattern, then we duplicate it. So what you're duplicating is the area that you cut out to that particular dart area. Then also you cut part of the you duplicate rather part of the hip area. Okay, just do it the same way I'm doing it. You will get that particular facing for your pocket. It must be the same measurements. So once you do that, you have to place that particular facing on your pocket that you drafted earlier. So make sure that you trace it out well. If you don't want to use your hand, you can use your curved ruler. Then you make sure you join it together with a straight line. So after tracing it out, you have to cut it, and so that is your pattern for the pocket and the pocket facing. So now that we placed it under the front panel, we see that is already looking like our pocket. So this is already making sense. It's 3 pieces, so we have the front panel, the facing for the front pattern, and also with the pockets. All right, so once we're done with this, then we're done for the front panel. We will have to move to the back panel. So you can just label it, name it the pockets, the pocket facing, and also the center fronts and all that, just not to confuse yourself when you want to sew the clothes. Remember the back panel that we put aside earlier? So now it's time to work on it. It's not much work, just little. So you know that we duplicated the front panel to make the back panel. Okay, so now we want to get the crotch points for the back panel. So we will place that 2 inches forward from that particular point, which is what I marked. Then we come down by half an inch. So now we have to find the midpoint from that vertical line and also to the center back. That is what I marked over there. Then we come down to the crotch line. Okay, so what we have, the distance between the crotch points and that vertical line. So that is what we're going to mark above the waistline for the back. So after that, we will have to join it in a curve that will form our back crotch points, because normally back is always like higher because of the back side, which is the butt. All right, so and now after that, just ignore that one because that was a mistake and I could not erase it. What I have there is exact waist measurements, which I transferred from the point above the waistline also to the almost the starting point. So that is the waist length, and also I added the ease allowance and also with the dart allowance. So after that, I just had half an inch allowance to match with the new waistline and also to be able to connect all the dotted points. And make sure you put your indicators the center back so that you don't confuse yourself when you're sewing the material. So what we have inside, that is the front panel, and the outer part is the back panel. So the one that is straight, that is our front panel waist, while the one that is higher and slopey, that is the back panel. So I hope you understand. We have to get the dart for the back. So we have to place our measuring tape on the front panel waistline. Whatever we have, then we transfer it to the back panel. So what we have must be parallel to the curve that we have for the back panel. So now I'm measuring it just to make sure that I have accurate measurements. Whatever you have at that place, you just transfer it. That's how you get your back measurements, because you know that your back measurements at the waist is not straight as the front, is slant, it's slopey. So you have to make it parallel to that curve, which makes the crotch point. So now I marked what I got over there, then I have to connect it together and measured 5 inches downwards. So because the first thing that is different is that the front panel has 4 inches for the dart length, but the back has 5 inches. So now I'm using blue marker just for you to be able to differentiate front and the back. So the front is with the black marker, while the back is with the blue marker. I hope you get that clear and it's not confusing to you. So after this one, you have to do the seam allowance. So once you get all that clearly, and what you have must be exactly like this, if not similar, depending on the measurements that you have on your pattern. So now I'm marking out the seam allowance, and you have to connect everything together. So after that, you have to make sure that you cut everything out accurately. So this is our front and back panel. Next is to get the band pattern. So I have the waist measurement, which is 32.5. I added a seam allowance. I have removed the dart from it. So now I also added the seam allowance, and remember that I'm cutting on fold, so I'm not going to put allowance over there. So this is what I have for the front panel and the back panel. So in sewing, there are different methods to sew. For the band, there also another method which I can show to you later. This video, this is how I drafted the band. So in sewing, there are different basics, and you can decide to manipulate it whichever way you want later. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you, and please don't forget to subscribe, like the video if you find it helpful, and also turn on the notification button. Bye bye.